Britain has ordered the closure of the Iranian embassy there in London and the expulsion of its staff after the UK decided to evacuate its own diplomats from the Islamic State's capital. Norway has also closed its embassy in Tehran, with Germany and France recalling their ambassadors from the country. The move comes after militant students stormed the UK compound in Tehran. Hundreds of hardline protesters massed outside the buildings before pelting the gates and windows with petrol bombs, burning British flags and an embassy vehicle. The attack came after Iran decided to reduce diplomatic relations with the UK following its decision to impose further sanctions on Tehran. Well, to get some analysis and opinion on the situation, I'm joined by Middle East expert and journalist Sukant Chandan, and he joins us there live in London. Well, we see that a number of countries have now joined the UK in responding to Tuesday's storming of the British embassy in Tehran. We now hear that Italy is also considering closing its embassy there. Just how serious could this be? Where could this all be leading to now?
Well, I think, Mr. Hague is sounding just like the silly boy that he sounded when he was 16 years old, when he emerged on the political scene from under the skirts of the most hated woman in England, which is Margaret Thatcher. I mean, Hague should be reminded, if he's concerned about the trashing of the British embassy in Tehran, he shouldn't go around trashing whole countries like Libya, for example. Now, what's very clear is that the West is not engaged in war preparations just against Iran, which they have been. They've invaded and occupied Iran's two neighboring countries, Afghanistan on the one side and Iraq on the other. The West is engaged in a constant project of constant war and domination against all people who resist their domination. So Iran and Syria are definitely up on the cards, and the conflagration will engulf the whole Middle East, with Hezbollah entering into the fray as well, with President Assad. And it was never reported in the West when he said, if you target me, then Hezbollah will target Israel, and we will target Israel as well. So this has the potential for growing, but that is the agenda right now, very clearly.
You say the potential for growing. Are you really suggesting that military intervention is what all this is leading up to? Do these countries really have an appetite after Libya and what's going on in Syria to really focus on Iran and militarily?
Definitely. Let us look at it in the international context. Now, they want regime change all across Africa. Libya was the start. They want it against Kabila now. You can see on the news-wise, that's very clear. And look at the Pacific and the Asia region. The new troops sent to, new US troops, sent to Australia. Listen to Clinton. She is saying that the critical places for US domination is not Iraq and Afghanistan, but in Asia. What she means is China. And she's saying, and the United States are going to be in the thick of the action in Asia. So we can see that it's very clearly ratcheting up against the final showdown, which is to be Russia and China, and also India in this regard.
What about these sanctions, though? Could they not hurt the Iranian regime, and we actually see it back down and having the desired effect that the West wants? What then?
Well, sure, any country of the global south can roll over and back down, but I don't think Iran is that type of regime. Now, also, Britain needs to be careful. It wants to escalate tensions against Iran and Syria at a time when it's going to host the World Olympics in 2012. Well, potentially, you're giving the Iranians and the Syrians a great hand in sabotaging the Olympics, potentially in England. So Britain really is quite foolish, but nevertheless, it's really clear that what's emerging right now is a historic pocket of time for the next 10-15 years, where Britain and America know they're going down economically and militarily, and they know China and Russia are emerging. So they're really feeling that now is the crisis period to make sure that they can dominate as much as possible through sanctions and war. I mean, it's any means necessary. I mean, whether they do it through sanctions or war or funding opposition movements, it's all the same. They want complete domination.
But the heart of all this, with the focus on Iran, is of course its suspicions of developing a nuclear bomb. Is that not a reasonable excuse to put pressure on Iran and say, come clean, let the authorities and observers inspect those suspected sites, and then all would be fine?
Why does the West allow to have endless stockpiles of nuclear weapons and no one else can? Iran is saying that they're not developing a nuclear war program, and I believe they're talking about a civil nuclear program, and they should have that right. But obviously, having that right in the Middle East smashes the monopoly of the Zionist state, which currently has the monopoly in the Middle East. Gaddafi said, if Israel can have a bomb, well, why not Muslim countries? So he supported Pakistan's right to have the nuclear bomb. I mean, in the world currently, it's very clear that if you have effective weapons of mass destruction like small half-country North Korea, the West will not attack. This is the lesson for the global south to learn.
Middle East expert and journalist Sukan Chandan, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts there live in London. Well, we're also curious to know what you think about this issue, about the consequences of the UK embassy siege in Tehran. You can cast your vote at rt.com. And we can see on screen the results so far. The majority of you think it'll eventually end up with Western intervention on Iranian soil. The opinion that the attack was just political theatre and will have few serious consequences comes second, and 15% believe the UK and other Western countries will cut diplomatic ties with the Islamic State, while the rest predict more sanctions against Iran and its further isolation. You can have your say on rt.com.